Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea and sit back, relax. And I mean relax this time. It's very important today that we relax. And let's chat about the energy for today. So today is going to be one of those days. It is probably the most difficult, if we can even use that word, day for this particular week. After today, it's all downhill and easy. But today we have some pretty critical things that we have to work with. And what I really find interesting is how, as I sit down every morning, by the way, and I start to bring all these pieces together, right? Human design, astrology, the Pleiadian earth energy astrology. And in doing so, what I'm really discovering is the coherence in the systems, right? In the systems. And one may show me one thing and the other one shows me the solution, right? One may show me the problem while the other one shows me the solution. And I'm finding it fascinating to move through this in the morning in this way. And it's dimensional almost in the way that we are able to see how the energies are lining up for us personally on a day-to-day basis. But it's also bigger than that. There's these bigger, wider cycles of time that are also at play. And it's those bigger, wider cycles of time that we don't always get to connect to personally because they're driving the bigger energies out in the world, right? The evolutionary impulses and the evolutionary energies and consciousness and growth here, on our planet, but not only on our planet, throughout the universe as we know it. And as we don't know it, so to speak. So today is a day, though, where we can kind of tap into some of those bigger, wider cycles if we only take the time for stillness, for quiet, for reflection, and for meditation, perhaps, or yoga, any of those spiritual types of practices that bring us into a quiet space. But that may be difficult today, as some of the energies of the day are also energizing us and wanting us to take action and pushing us to do things and creating the possibility for impatience, for impulsiveness, and the like. So today we have to really practice discipline and restraint. So let's break it down a little bit and talk a little bit about what that means for us. I'm going to start first this morning with the moon. The moon, in the great pantheon of planets that we deal with on a daily basis, moves the quickest. And through any one day, it moves through several degrees of a sign and through at least 3 gates in your human design. In fact, I didn't even look to see what gates that the moon may be passing through today. But if we take a look, let's see, the moon on the 22nd is passing through 3 gates today. And that means 3 opportunities for us to have a mood shift, right? A mood shift or an emotional change. The energies in the moon today are in Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign of business. It is a sign of discipline and responsibility. It is a sign of taking responsibility or having responsibility. The moon is emotional. Capricorn has restraint. So we see the moon in a struggle today. Anytime she's in the sign of Capricorn, literally, a struggle between restraint and emotional expression. So we have today the possibility that we're holding ourselves back a bit, that we are being more stoic in the way that we respond to what's going on in the world or what's going on in our personal lives. But it's actually a good thing. The moon in Capricorn is moving into an area where it will conjunct Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node. And I did that in reverse order: South Node, Saturn, and Pluto in that order today. And, remember back, was it last month? It was April, where we had the retrograde parade, right? We had Jupiter and then Pluto and then Saturn changing into retrograde. And early in the month, we had the conjunction of the South Node, Pluto, and Saturn together. And we were talking about how that was pointing us toward destruction. There was a destruction and rebirth process that's going on. Now, that's really a wider, or one of the bigger cycles of time. And it's all right and perfect. There's nothing really, we're not having, we may be having a breakdown, but we're not having a breakdown as such that it's wrong or, not correct. There's this overlying energy of destruction. And I read an article where the woman, she was an astrologer, and I cannot remember whose article it was now, but she was comparing it to having a remodel in your kitchen or in your bathroom or, anywhere in your house, right? What's the first thing that you do? Well, you have to destroy or dismantle whatever it is that is no longer sustainable or working or that you want to replace, right? You destroy it or you destruct it, deconstruct. Right? That's kind of the root word here, deconstruct. So we're taking apart, we're dismantling, we are in a way destroying what is to make room for the new. And in a way, today's energy is about that. It may be taking us back to that time earlier in this month and late in April, where something was happening in our lives, where we were dismantling something, letting something go. And it can be an emotional, we might have emotional attachments to those things or to that way of being, whatever it is that's being that person, right? That job and that project. And as it comes to completion or as it completed with the full moon this last weekend, the possibility is we're now feeling the emotional hole perhaps, or the emotional void. Now, there's layers to this release and to this destruction. This isn't just a one-time punch and, boom. It's not like an earthquake that comes through and boom, everything crumbles. It's not quite like that. It could be the major hit that crumbles, and then there's other layers of things that you realize, oh, well, if the building's crumbled, then likely the gas mains or the electrical grid or things within the building, have to be replaced. So we're having this layered transformation go on within us. Layered transformation. And that layered transformation comes up. And today may be one of those days where things come up as the moon conjuncts the south node, Saturn and Pluto. It won't be for another few hours yet, but it could already be in the swing. And even the contemplation of the change may bring up an emotional reaction for you. And it may actually feel sort of sad or down or depressing or melancholic. I don't want you to attach anything, any real meaning to the emotion, because this too shall pass, right? This too shall pass. There's also a connection with the moon today to Neptune. And Neptune, remember, and Saturn and Jupiter this year, for the whole of the year, are bringing us more to a spiritual place, a foundation being both spirit and the physical being. And remember talking about that in the Astrology for 2019 workshop webinar that we did, where we were building up and really solidifying our connection to source within us. And in that way, we have spiritual practices or rituals that we might want to go through that really ground that reality of spirit in the body. I hope everything here is making sense. This is coming together here. These wider cycles of time and the way it moves so fast puts or exerts a lot of pressure on us to change. And in that change, what do we want to do? We want to resist. And I'm telling you that this is the time for us to just sit back and go with the flow of change on the planet. Today, especially, is a day where things, emotions, and so forth might be completely out of your hands. And if that's the case, then no amount of stress or worry or control on your part is gonna make it change or be any different. If anything, you are just constricting even more and holding on even tighter. Relax and let it just flow and let it just go, because there isn't much that is in your control as it relates to some of these bigger things that are happening. Let's take a quick moment to say good morning to everybody out there. I see a lot of people checking in this morning. Good morning, Camille. Good morning, Rebecca and Asa and Mimi. Good morning, Vanita. Good morning, Gail, good morning. She says, boy, oh boy, am I feeling a lot this week. Spot on, Janet. Thank you. And much love to you as well, Gail. Lynn, good morning. She's just joining us. Good morning, Colleen. Vanita says, been thinking about how to deal with loneliness at my age. Interesting, right? That's a really interesting one. And I bet you have a channel 4037 in your human design chart, Vanita, or maybe just the gate 40, where it is about learning to be alone without being lonely. Huge lesson, right? It is a pressure put upon you to go out and find company, to rather than just staying as a hermit, to go out and connect with people, to network with people. And from that, it dispels some of that feeling of loneliness. And then when you come back to your own self, you almost rather enjoy that time, that solitude, and then you're pulled back out into the world to connect. And that it's like a breath, right? Out breath, out in the world, in breath, back into your own inner world. So interesting that you are recognizing that right now. There was another thought I had. Anybody out there having bizarre dreams? Typically, I guess it might be because of the moon's connection to Neptune that I had the most disturbing, bizarre, crazy dream last night or this morning. I don't know when it was, but I woke up remembering this dream. And in the dream, I was in a place that I've been before, but it's not real, if that makes sense, right? I was in this sort of long, you know what a train looks like, right? And how you can move from one car to another car on the train. Well, this building I was in was much like a non-moving train where you could move through a compartment and then there's a connector and you move through to the next compartment. And it felt like it was a science lab in some way, shape, or form. It felt very scientific, right? And I'm walking past a mirror and I knew in my mind that I was going through changes. I knew in the dream that I was going through changes. And I walked past a mirror. And when I looked in the mirror, oh my God, I could see that my scalp and my hair had separated from my skull. There were like these giant, gaps between, the hair and the scalp, and I could see the skull coming through. And I mean, I just recoiled in horror from the way that I looked. And someone, I don't know who, had their arm around me and said, see, you really are going through some profound changes. And I mean, literally, I woke up and I was like, oh my God. Yes, my head is still together. My hair is still connected to my scalp. My skull is not showing through. It was so freaky. I have no clue yet. I haven't really been able to process through that to see if there's some deeper meaning. Obviously, this is the meaning of change and transformation, the breaking apart of the old and the beginning of the new shining through. It was almost like cracking of an egg. And you can see, the ends, the yolk and the white of the egg in there, but you haven't done anything with it yet. So, it's not changed completely yet, but in the process, whew, crazy, crazy, crazy dream. People in it that I didn't know. And one person that I really do know pretty well, or she's from my past that I knew really well, sitting at this table with me in this dream and holding the space for calmness for me and for that safe sort of zone. Very odd. So if any of you are having crazy dreams, I would urge you to write them down so you don't forget them, and then go through a process of looking at, what does this mean? What's the bigger message, right? Is it a personal message? Is it a collective message? And if it is a personal message, what does it mean? What does it remind me of? So that you can move through and you can understand, these are very powerful subconscious images that were coming up for me. And it was an aha as much as it was oh my God, I don't want to go through this. And, it was a love-hate sort of feeling that I was having about what this looked like versus what it meant. The possibility for complete and radical change, versus the fear I was feeling about what that meant for me personally. So powerful stuff, right? And for me, right now in my personal chart, Mars is headed into through my 12th house. So there's the possibility it's energizing deep rooted fears or deep rooted seeds of fear that could come up possibly and stop me from moving through whatever the transitions are that are coming for me. Likewise, for all of us, likewise for the entire planet, we are going through these powerful transitions. And those are through the layers of things that we see happening and changing. Some of them are that we're okay with, and some of them we are so not okay with, right? That we are kicking and screaming. We are in total revulsion of, what that means. Maybe we're just fatigued by the mere thought of what it is that we must go through collectively or even personally in order to come out at the other side. So if you're feeling any of that, I am totally with you in it. And today is a day for us to recognize that the best route for us to go is to move inward, to be able to move into a space of meditation, of relaxation, even of nothingness, the void, moving into the void, moving into the state where there is nothing that we must do, nothing calling us to be anything other than who we are in that moment. It's almost like coming to a standstill. And indeed, what's interesting as I started looking this, right now we've just dealt with Moon in Capricorn, right? And her connection to the South Node, Saturn, Pluto, and Neptune. Today we are challenged in that potential stillness by Mars in a sextile relationship to Uranus. Sextile is a 60-degree angle. The relationship between these two planets is a good one, right? They're usually mutually, they're sharing their gifts and their talents, right? The gift of Mars in action and the gift of Uranus to see the new and the bright and the future and to move on into that bright new future. The problem here is that the energy can be impulsive and it can cause us to take action before it's ready, right? If you go to turn an egg when you're frying an egg, if you turn it too soon, it falls apart, right? If you're doing an over easy egg, or I'm sure many of you have launched projects or done something too soon. And in retrospect, you go, wow, I should have waited, right? I should have waited to turn that egg because otherwise, my yolk wouldn't have broken, that kind of thing. And so today is one of those days where we're very tempted to push forward, right? To take action because we're impatient, right? There's an impatience that's simmering beneath the surface, and that impatience can lead you to take action. And if it does, this isn't one of the worst relationships that Mars and Uranus can be in. By most standards, this one's fairly easy. So if we do get a little reckless or we do become a little impulsive or impatient and take steps, it would be an easier time for us to come back and undo what we've done. But why do it in the first place? I'm warning you about it now, right? Try not to take any impulsive action today. And that might mean also with Mercury and Gemini, or Mercury and the Sun both in Gemini, that we also have to clamp down on our voices. We have to resist saying those things that blurp up to the surface that we want to vomit onto people. So if we can resist that kind of impulsive words or impulsive action today, we'll find ourselves in a much more peaceful place. Today is definitely much more about being able to go inward and be quiet. In fact, when I looked at the gate in human design, when I'm confused, by the way, and you guys can do this too, when I'm confused about an energy, like I'm presented with Mars sextile Uranus, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. Let's move, let's do. And then I see everything else that's going on around it and I go, oops, right? Oops. So I go to human design and I go to see what gate the planet that I'm worried about is in, or the planet that I'm concerned about. So this morning, I already knew Uranus is at gate 3 in human design, which is about the slow role of evolution, right? The movement through our DNA of the changes that are taking place, the evolutionary energies. And Uranus is moving us into new evolutionary territory. I got that. What I didn't know is where's Mars? And Mars is at gate 52 in your human design. I'm going to show you a gate. I'm going to show you a human design chart. Gate 52, make sure I'm going to get the right gate, is sitting on this corner right here of the root center. Is an impulse, and it moves up toward the sacral for action, right? 52 sits here and moves up to the sacral for action through the gate 42, through the gate 9. So here we have 52, and it's moving up to gate 9. I don't know if you guys can actually see those numbers, but trust me when I say 52 is here, and this is 9. So we're pushing this impulsive energy up into the sacral. This is why we're really feeling rushed to take action. There's an impulse that bubbles up from our being, from our deep being. And the impulse is to take action. Action may be to survive because it's survival energy on the root center is our grounding here to the planet. And part of that may be, be for us to take action and move outward with something. But the gate 52 is called the gate of stillness. It is called the gate of restraint. In the gene keys, the lowest expression of this gate 52 is where Mars is sitting, is stress, right? Stress, that feeling that we got to do, right? Or the stress from tension of our minds forcing us into a thinking pattern that we have to do something to break the tension. And the gift in this today is about restraint, right? Holding ourselves back and moving inward, listening deeply. And oh, by the way, another way now that I tap into what is going on is I get to my Pleiadian Earth energy calendar, and away they went. Pleiadian Earth energy calendar, and today was a day of 7 listening. 7 is the universal energy of merging, coming together, right? Moving to find unity, pulling everything in, right? Merging. The Earth energy is that of listening. So we have to practice patience. We have to take care. We have to be responsible. We have to practice empathy, right? So we have a lot of energies today that are sort of coherent, right? They all sort of move us in the same direction. Today, as much as you might want to be able to take action and jump out and get a fast start, you may need to restrain yourself. The other best way that I know of for you all to do that is to go through your type, your strategy, and your authority in your human design. Know who you're here to be. Know how you're here to be. Know what your best decision-making path is. In that lies the keys. Those are the 3 keys to knowing yourself, to actually living your correct human design, right? Living your correct human design. And it's different for all of us, right? I speak to many different people about human design, many different, 35% of us out there are generators, but even generators have the potential for making decisions in completely different ways, depending on how you're designed. And the way I make decisions versus the way you make decisions versus the way she makes decisions can be completely different. So the generalities, while they help guide us, really can take us into a wrong direction if your design is just a little bit different. So the best way I know is to get your human design chart. First of all, have it with you in the morning, right? Get your chart done, have it with you in the morning so you can see when I'm talking about gate 52 in a chart, and then I'm showing you where it is. You can look on your own personal chart and you can see where it is, what state it's in for you. Is it defined? Defined would mean there's color in that channel, right? That there's either red or black or striped red and black or white, in that channel. If it's white, it's undefined. And now, because of a transit of a planet like Mars, it becomes defined. You become artificially stressed, perhaps, to take action. While anybody who has it defined, depending on the planet that defines it, will be pushed to use that energy in a restrained way. I hope all of this makes sense to everybody. Let's see how or what everybody's saying. Asa says, yes, Lord. Good morning, Michelle. Other Michelle. I don't know how to say your last name, Michelle, now, but good morning to you. Mimi, the dream, the opening of the chrysalis, a birthing of something new. Birth, rebirthing is a messy process. Yeah. And it's the cracking open of my head that was so disturbing. That's the part that really disturbed me. And there was vanity in all of that, because it was like, oh my God, I look so horrible, right? It looks horrible to have these big flaps of skull and hair, or scalp and hair, moving. It sort of reminded me of, the plate tectonics on the planet here, Earth, right? How the plate, they move apart and they move together. That's kind of what it looked like on my head, right? These plates had separated, and what was being exposed was, this egg, this skull. Crazy, crazy dream. Yes, I was not doing drugs when I went to bed last night. It was truly something coming up from deep within. Rebecca says, yes, I'm feeling the restlessness. Thank you so much for the heads up. We'll stay silent today. Good morning, Jacqueline Tyler. It's good to see you. Rebecca says, what is the 52-9 channel called? I have mine on UNC, so HD moon at gate 9. Unconscious. Okay, gotcha. Unconscious human design moon at gate 9. Gate 9, this is really the whole channel of concentration and focus. Gate 9 is the energy of focus, but gate 52 is the energy of concentration. This channel can create an ADD sort of feeling. ADD being attention deficit, or ADHD. When I see this channel defined for a child, or for an adult who's telling me that they feel like they're, scattered or hyperactivity, or that they have ADD, or that a doctor has told them that they have ADD, I'm like, there it is right there. The inability to focus, because you have to learn how to become quiet. You have to move into that quiet space, which might mean taking time to relax, taking time to withdraw, right? Being quiet. You definitely, if you have this gate, when I'm taking note because I have this gate, need to meditate, right? You need to be able to come to a calm center. And the best route that I know of is through meditation. But you can also, depending on what Mars is doing in a human design chart, you can also reach this through disciplined exercises like Qigong, which is sort of a remember Amy came on the show and talked to us about Qigong. There's also what's Tai Chi, right? Yoga, those kind of disciplined exercises, body movements that are designed to help your energy come into center, into quiet, into meditation or stillness or restraint. Either any of those words will do. So depending on you as an individual and what your human design looks like, if you can't sit still in meditation, you may be able to go into meditation via Tai Chi or one of those other types of meditative movements. Even disciplines like karate and taekwondo and all those, they have a meditative part to them. They're a little more expressive, in the way that, and more, I want to say violent, but that is not the word I'm really looking for. They're more demonstrative in the way that they're enacted out there. But it is also based in meditation, coming into a center. So depending on your human design, again, the best route for you to gain restraint or to gain a place of stillness might be through a combination of meditation and exercise. It could just be in exercise. How many times are you, if you're a runner or someone who walks or goes out into nature and hikes, are you in the process of meditating while you're doing that? Right? There's a lot of ways, there's a lot of gateways to gain restraint and to calm your impulsive or impatient energies. Tai Chi sounds fitting. Yeah. Tai Chi, I really wanted to learn Tai Chi at one point. There was just something I found graceful in the movements, and it to me epitomizes the energy of restraint, right? If you're moving into a pose, I mean, right now I'm trying to move into a pose, but I'm doing it so quickly, right? The idea is to do this with slow, deliberate motion that is at once in restraint, but also in motion, right? It's like holding the tension of these opposites. So it might be a great pathway for you, Rebecca, to be able to work with your moon there. The moon in human design acts a little bit differently than the moon in astrology does. The moon in astrology we know of as our emotions, and as a timekeeper almost, indicating the cycles of time in our personal lives. And it is also in regular astrology the soul. We consider it to be the deeper part of ourselves, right? But in human design, the moon is what um, drives us, right? It's what causes us to go out into the world and do or be. And so wherever the moon is in your human design chart, especially in the conscious line, is where we see you constantly taking action, where we see you feeling driven to perform, driven to do, driven to be. It is the reason why likely you get out of bed in the morning and show up powerfully in some way, in whatever way that is. For example, let's say yesterday, let's look at this morning. I think the gate 38 is that May? Yes, today, 22nd. The moon this morning until this afternoon. Okay, so the moon is at gate 38 right now. In human design, the gate 38 is also on the root center right here, and it leads up over here to the spleen. Dang it. Okay, here we go. 38, excuse me, right here, leading up to gate 28 in the spleen. So the gate 38 is the gate of fight. It is the gate that leads to struggling for and fighting for what's right, what's correct for you. And is it, choosing your battles wisely. That's another way I could look at that. So for all of us, because the moon is transiting through that gate, it's about choosing the right battle, choosing the right things to stand up for and hold your ground with and fight for. But for most of us, that will pass into the next gate, 54, later on, and we'll be dealing with our goals and our aspirations, etc. But for the people who have the moon at gate 38 in their natal charts, in their natal human design, that is a path that always drives them, that fight, right? They're always in a fight, a struggle for something. And so their life can be, one battle to the next, right? We know people like this, right? They're out of the frying pan and into the fire, out of that fire and into another frying pan, out of that frying pan and into another fire. And it's probably that they're struggling to find the right fight, the right thing to hold their ground with and to struggle to bring into being. So that might be something like a Nelson Mandela or a Gandhi who stayed through and fought for specific things, even though they weren't doing it in a way that we think of as fighting. They weren't like duking it out. They held their ground and they moved through these energies in a peaceful way, which is a possibility, but they stayed with that fight, right, for what they believed in. So I hope that helps, right? Your moon in human design drives you, and the moon in your astrology chart is much more emotionally connection. an emotional connection, and also driving the cycles of time in your world and your soul connection. Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, Janice. Lynn says, I have 9 defined. So is 9 hanging for you, Lynn? Because if so, you have focus, but not concentration, right? So that whole channel is really about trying to connect the impulses that we have with the staying power of the sacral. So you have the focus, the staying power of the sacral, but what are you focusing on? Perhaps that's the question. I have the other end. I have gate 52, but no 9. And I can concentrate like anything on reading a book, on focus on a TV show. But if I have a project that I'm working on, it's very easy for me to get scattered. I lose that focus. And it's interesting, right? Because that makes me feel like, oh gosh, I can't get this done. So in your case, it's kind of the opposite. You have focus, but you may be always focusing on the wrong things. right? You can stay with something and focus on something, but not really get anywhere with it because you don't have the concentration end. So there's a struggle there in that channel. And either way, sometimes it is the jumping and leaping from one thing to another, and other times it's the staying with something, even though the impulse is telling you, get away, do something different, right? Let that go. Um, just depends on how it's showing up in your chart, the overall tenor of your particular chart. Rebecca, Tai Chi sounds fitting. Realized my Uranus sits there too. And Uranus in your human design is really about the part that you hold in the revolution. If life here on this planet is a revolution or a rebellion, and it is, it's a series of rebellions and revolutions. It's the part that you rebel at. It's the revolution that you go through and that you participate in. Asa, does the planet that sits hold on, I got to pull this up just a second here. Asa, does the planet that sits at that Gator channel matter in how or where you feel those energies? I have the unconscious Venus in 52. Will I feel those energies in Venus-like energies, love, art, etc.? Well, Venus in human design is specific to your relationships. So you may be feeling that energy in that way. Also, we haven't talked much about this in lately anyway, but the gene keys. In the gene keys, you have a hologenetic profile. And at one point I had the link up for everybody to go and get their hologenetic profiles. And because I'm not in my office, I'm still out in my kitchen. I don't have access to it at the moment, but a hologenetic profile shows you sort of your pathway to express from the unconscious to the conscious. Venus plays a huge role in that because your relationships are so important. They really are showing you the relative health of your own self, right? Your Venus relationship energy is really kind of cluing you in to what's happening with you, right? Because we tend to project out onto others. So our relationships show us the relative health of our own inner world. So relationships is where that is, Venus representing relationships for you. 9 is hanging. Rebecca makes so much sense. Lynn, great conversation. Also know Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong. Just started doing Qigong again. I swear I should myself do those things. Suzanne, good morning. I got mine. They are cool. You got your what? Your hologenetic profile, maybe? I don't know. Tell me what you got, Suzanne. I'm lost in that conversation. So Jacqueline says, what does the Black Moon Lilith mean for a Sag? I'm not going to go back into the Black Moon Lilith today because that's just a whole nother opening. But there is something about the Black Moon Lilith that we should all understand right now. Remember the Black Moon, she represents your shadow, right? The shadow part of you, the part that, you're not a blind spot, perhaps, that you don't see clearly. Well, Mars is in a trine with the Black Moon Lilith right now in Pisces. Remember, a trine is an ease and flow of energy. We usually think of a trine as a benefic, right? Or a good thing. But a trine can also be a place where there's this lazy energy, right? Where you could be great, but you just settle, right? Because it's so easy, you just don't think about it, right? So an artist that, doodles and makes these fantastic things, and if they only put a little bit of effort out, they could be great, right? They could be the next Picasso or the next, Van Gogh. So a trine can be helpful and beneficial in sharing of that energy, but it can also be a lazy spot for all of us. And Mars in a trine to the Black Moon Lilith right now is waking us up to the shadow components where we are not clear in our connection to source, where we feel disconnected, where we don't feel that or where we, for instance, we're talking about these meditative sort of things, exercises or meditation, yoga, all of the like, designed to bring you into connection with your higher self, centering you with your higher self or your connection to source. But with the shadow, we may struggle to feel connected. So there's that part going on as well today, where no matter what we do, um, we don't feel the connection. And then we believe that somehow we're not connected. Now, for those of you who don't have the black moon in Pisces natally, this isn't a big problem. This is a transiting sort of thing. It's moving through. But for those of you who have the black moon Lilith natally in Pisces, you may struggle with this all your life, right? Where even in the depth of a sorrow or the depth of an issue, you forget you're actually connected to something higher than you, or that you have within you everything you need. And you can lose sight of that, and you become disillusioned. You become sort of lost in the world. And often, not always, but often, this can lead to drug or alcohol abuse or other kinds of escapist or tendencies where we're trying to escape the pain, the wound, the shadow, instead of facing it head on. So we have an opportunity today then with Mars in going inward to face our shadows, face the part of you that does not feel like they are connected to a higher power or to, source or God. Does that make sense to everybody? So just another part of what's out there. Suzanne says the hologenetic profile. Okay, great. Yeah, the hologenetic profile is huge. And in your hologenetic profile, for those of you who have one, have yours, right up the middle from the very bottom bubble all the way up, then that you see sort of a little bridge here, and then another, possible pathway straight up that resembles a sword. It is your sword of truth, right? It is the sword of your true path. So you're on a path, and it is different from everybody else's. And that path includes different planets from your human design that are translated into the gene key hologenetic profile. So there are places where you could contemplate your life path, your movement in your life, and how it pertains to you and your gene keys, right? That's Gene Keys. For those of you who might be listening that are new, Gene Keys is a book that we often refer to here, written by Richard Rudd. It is Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden in Your DNA. It is more of the hologram, the holographic version of your personal energy, and also the energy of the planet. In that we look at the human design gate and a gene key are identical, right? They're the same thing. Except in the gene keys, we are looking at it dimensionally. We're not looking at it just on one surface. We're looking at it dimensionally. We're looking at it through the shadow that it presents. We're looking at it through the potential gift and the way that we could express that gift in the world. But we're also looking at the highest expression that we can expect through that gate if we moved to that level, when we evolve to that level. Just to take the gate 52 for an example, in the shadow, it is stress, the energy of stress that's building up within us. The gift is the level of restraint, right? So we're taking the pathway from stress through to the highest expression, stillness, by encouraging restraint. That's the way we could phrase that, right? Moving from stress to stillness via restraint. Hope that's helpful. So, Suzanne, you should do a show on the hologenetic profiles. Oh, Lord. It couldn't be just one show. It would have to be a series because there's so much to it. I spent 9 months doing my Gene Keys ambassadorship on just that, right? Basically walking that path of individuality, or the sword of truth for me personally, via the Gene Keys, the ambassador program. It's kind of crazy, kind of long. And, in it, nobody can really confer. I can give you the information. I can lead you there. I can lead you to the contemplation, but I can't force the contemplation upon you, right? Every one of you has access to the Gene Keys book. You could be doing this contemplation all on your own. I would encourage you guys today to take your Gene Keys book out and maybe go to gate 52. Gate 52 is Let's look it up. I haven't looked it up today, but I have it highlighted a lot. Is the still point, right? So you go to the gene keys, you see the gate 52. It tells you the gift, the shadow, and the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi. It tells you the name of it over here. It tells you its programming partner, which is literally the gate of joy, the codon ring, the ring of seeking, and it tells you the physiology and the amino acids it's connected to. And the amino acids, of course, are how proteins are coded in your DNA. And then it gives you, boy, I have really outlined this one. This was important. So most of us can kind of maybe understand this energy a little bit deeper when we see that we feel stuck, right? That energy of stillness and restraint in the shadow can be expressed as being stuck. How many of you, raise your hands, not that I can see them, but raise your hand if you've ever felt stuck. Likely you were in a period of restraint, right? A stillness point. If you were a generator, I would say you'd come to a plateau. And in that place, you feel stuck, but it's just a holding place, right? You're in restraint for the moment. All signs aren't ready to go yet, right? Not all the chess pieces on the board are in play. So that can create a feeling of being stuck, right? Or of not having the pathway available to us to move forward. And it is a great book. You're right. Absolutely, Suzanne. But it is not a book you read cover to cover. You could try it, but I think it would just blow your mind. And not necessarily in a good way, could create confusion and all that. Rather, get your human design chart, choose a gate that interests you, and deep dive into that gate. Learn it, feel it, see how it relates to you in your life, and do the contemplation, right? Do that work on you. And right now, today, the gate 52 is of interest. It's up for us right now. So it is up for us for the next 7 or 8 days while Mars is transiting through that gate. So maybe do take some time and look at that, whether you have it open in your human design or if it's defined in your human design. Look at it, understand it, and contemplate how it plays out in your own personal life. That is what we do when we are becoming spiritually responsible. And it doesn't have to be the gene keys. It can be anything that you're using as a way to gain more insight into who you are. I just happen to think that gene keys and human design and the Pleiadian Earth energy calendar and astrology are great gateways to finding that point. But there are many other disciplines and many other ways, right? You find the way that you resonate with and follow that and do the deep dive, find out who you really are. Suzanne says, my gate 52 is open and 9 is open. Well, today and for the next 7 days, Suzanne, your gate 52 is defined by Mars. You might find yourself sort of vibrating with this energy of wanting to do. Maybe you're impatient. Maybe you're sort of restless and, vague sense of restlessness. Like, why am I feeling this? And it's a great time for you to learn to meditate or to meditate or come back to a still point. Scatterbrain most of the time. No, that's not why you're scatterbrained most of the time. Today she woke up calm-brained. Wow, it could be, right? Because now you have definition in a gate that can maybe help you get to that place of calmness. But scattered energy can come from that place. But it can also come from the mind, the ajna, the second center down. So there you have that. All right. So let's see. What time is it here this morning? 8:48. I am going to have a couple of announcements here, and then maybe I'll draw a couple of cards for us for today. One, today, this afternoon, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. East Coast time, I will be on Angel Heart Radio with Annette McCoy. I have no clue what we're going to be talking about. Possibly we're going to be talking about more of this kind of information and how this takes us into the month of June, or whatever else comes up. Whatever is uppermost in my mind when I get on that radio show with her is what we're going to focus on. The highlight of her show, though, for me and for everyone, is that I do mini astrology or human design readings while on air. So if you are struggling, if you have questions, if you need help, this is a great time for you. This is a great way for you to get some astrology or human design advice. So I'm going to, as soon as the show is over today, I will post that link and that phone number. It is through Blog Talk Radio. It is very simple. You dial the number, you call in, you press 1, it puts you into the call queue, and then you can be listening to the show through the phone until I am ready to do the reading, and then we bring you in live so that you can have your mini reading, right? But as most of you know, I never stop with mini. It's very difficult for me to stay mini when I just see things in a maxi sort of way. Mini isn't in me. Maxi is, but I try on the radio to make sure I can drive home as quickly as possible the answers to your questions, your dilemmas, your problems, your issues, so your challenges. So if you want to do that, look on the Living Astrology page once I'm done here this morning, and I will post that link up. Also, I want to remind you that coming up here very shortly is the Change Your Mind, Change Your Life Summit with 11 brilliant women who have 11 brilliant things to share with you. And I'm just one of those 11 voices. And my part in all of this will be about talking you through how to change your mind. But it's not about changing your mind as much as it is about releasing your dependence on your mind. And that show, or that part of the summit, will be June 13th at 1 p.m. And on top of that, those 11 women's talks are free for you to listen to. And all you have to do is, you go in, I'll post that information. The marketing information is almost ready, and you can just link up, and it's a Zoom conversation, and you'll be able to easily just kind of tap in to each one of those talks by these 11 brilliant women. I'm including myself in that. So coming up, that's June 11th through the 14th. And mine just happens to be on June 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right, so let's pull a card. Let's see what we can discover through the Wisdom of the Oracle today. What is the Oracle? Wisdom of the Oracle is by Colette Baron-Reid. And sometimes you might hear me call it WOTA, which is what I learned when I was on the Caribbean cruise with Colette Baron-Reid, that everybody calls it WOTA. I always was like the Wisdom of the Oracle, but it's WOTA. So WOTA, WOTA's jumping cards out at me. And, interesting. It is the card 11, and she came out sideways like this. So that means to me that we need to look at the whole of the card. This is the card 38. She's also the one on the cover, right? She matches the cover. And the card says, to be fair, right? To be fair. And number 38, which is an 11. Interesting. So let's see what this card means for us for going into today. 38. The meaning: balance, justice, a need to consider options, mutual benefit, and the law of cause and effect. The Oracle's message says life offers experiences that are challenging and experiences that are nourishing. Yet over time, they strike a balance. You move from being, from stasis to doing, from discovering to loving to letting go to being again. Life is a pendulum swinging between all of these states. You will always oscillate back and forth between doing and being. If you are not content with where you are at this moment, remember that all experiences have their place. Accept them without judgment, and you will see how the universe adjusts in perfect balance. You reap what you sow. For every cause, there is an effect. Wondrous things will be revealed now. Now, the protection message, because the card came out sideways, I'm going to read the protection message because for some of us, maybe that's the better message. And it says, injustice and inequity are part of life, but they do not have to define your experience. This is a time when you may observe an injustice righted and fairly redressed. Perhaps you come to the rescue of someone else or are called to answer for a personal slight. You will be amazed by the sense of power that surges through you when you stand up for yourself and others. This card also indicates a good time to advocate for others who are less fortunate. Choose your cause and commit to it because you can make a difference. One thing is for certain, if fairness is your intention, the situation will be resolved for the highest good of all concerned through acts of kindness, empathy, and courage. Well, that's a really cool card to add to our day. I like that one. And Suzanne has posted what angel number 11 means, the symbolism for it all, so you all can read that. Thank you very much, sweetie. And Rebecca, oh, this is so fascinating. She says, I'm still contemplating my activation sequence since November. It takes time. Absolutely. And you don't want to short circuit the time it takes, right? What is she's speaking of? There are 3 sequences, the activation sequence, then there is the Venus sequence, and then there is the Pearl sequence in discovering the holographic you, right? The whole of who you are, your whole path. And it through the hologenetic profile, excuse me. And it takes time, right? There's 33 steps, I think, in the first one, in the activation sequence, and probably as many in the next 2 sequences as well. And they build one upon the other. So it takes as much time as it takes. You can't rush it. So take your time, enjoy it, enjoy the process of contemplation. And if anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to ask the question in the chat. And I will go back and look at that later on here. So today, 5 p.m., I hope to see you or hear you anyway on Annette's radio show, Angel Heart Radio. I'll post that link. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Remember, restraint, stillness, meditation, quiet is in order today. All right, everybody. Mwah. Take care.